The old pickup truck rolled down the winding mountain road as the sun started to disappear behind the tall pine trees. Jake wiped his tired eyes and stretched his neck. He had been driving around these mountains all day, taking pictures of the beautiful autumn colors for his photography project. His camera bag sat on the passenger seat, full of memory cards capturing the golden leaves and misty valleys. Jake was 32 years old and spent most of his time alone in nature. He preferred the quiet mountains to busy cities. People were complicated, but mountains and forests were simple and peaceful. After his divorce 3 years ago, he had bought a small cabin up in these hills and made it his home base for wildlife photography. As hunger started to hit him, Jake spotted the familiar neon sign of Mountain View Diner ahead. The place looked like it hadn't changed since the 1950s, with its chrome exterior and red vinyl booths inside. It was the only restaurant for miles around, and Jake had eaten there many times over the past few years. The parking lot was almost empty when he pulled in, just a few pickup trucks and an old sedan. Inside, the diner was warm and smelled like coffee and fried food. The usual crowd of local guys sat at the counter, talking about hunting season and complaining about the weather. Jake grabbed a booth near the window and ordered his usual, a burger and coffee. That's when he noticed her. She sat alone in the corner booth, as far from everyone else as possible. Jake had never seen anyone quite like her before. Her skin seemed to have a soft glow to it, almost like moonlight. Her hair was silver white and moved like water when she turned her head, but it was her eyes that really caught his attention. They were a deep purple color, like the sky just before dawn. She wore simple clothes, a dark sweater and jeans, but somehow she looked like she belonged in a completely different world. She held a cup of coffee with both hands, staring out the window at the darkening sky with an expression Jake couldn't read. The woman seemed nervous, glancing around the diner every few seconds. She kept checking her watch and looking toward the door like she was waiting for someone who wasn't coming. Jake tried not to stare, but something about her drew his attention. She didn't look like the tourists who sometimes passed through, and she definitely wasn't local. There was something otherworldly about the way she moved, like gravity affected her differently than everyone else. When Jake's burger arrived, he noticed 3 men at the counter had started paying attention to the mysterious woman too. But their interest wasn't friendly curiosity like his. They were the type of guys who thought they owned the place just because they'd lived here all their lives. Jake recognized them. They worked at the lumber mill and spent most evenings at the local bar causing trouble. "Hey there, pretty lady," one of them called out, sliding out of his stool. "You look lost. Need some local guys to show you around?" The woman looked up and Jake could see confusion and fear cross her face. She shook her head politely. "No, thank you. I'm fine." "Come on, don't be shy," another man said, walking over to her table. "We don't get many visitors like you around here, especially not ones who look like they stepped out of a magazine." "I said I'm fine," she repeated. But her voice was quieter now. She gripped her coffee cup tighter. The third man laughed. "She's got an accent." "Where you from, sweetheart? One of those fancy cities? Think you're too good for mountain folk?" Jake felt his stomach tighten. He hated bullies, especially ones who picked on people who were alone and vulnerable. The woman was clearly uncomfortable, and the 3 men were getting bolder by the second. "Leave me alone, please," she said, standing up from her booth. But the men blocked her path to the door. "Now that's not very friendly," the first man said. "We're just trying to be welcoming." That was enough for Jake. He stood up and walked over to their table. "Excuse me, guys, I think the lady asked you to leave her alone." The 3 men turned to look at him. They were all bigger than Jake, but he didn't back down. "This isn't your business, camera boy," one of them said. "Go back to taking pictures of flowers." "I'm making it my business," Jake replied calmly. "She doesn't want to talk to you. So why don't you go back to your drinks and let her eat in peace?" The tension in the diner grew thick. The other customers stopped talking and watched to see what would happen. The woman looked at Jake with surprise, like she couldn't believe. Someone was standing up for her. "You got a problem, outsider?" The biggest man stepped closer to Jake. "Maybe you need to learn some manners." Jake didn't flinch. "The only problem I see is 3 grown men bothering someone who just wants to be left alone. That's not very neighborly." For a moment, it looked like things might get physical. But then the diner owner, Mrs. Rodriguez, came out from behind the counter with a baseball bat in her hands. "That's enough," she shouted. "Tom, Bill, Danny, you 3 get out of my diner right now, or I'm calling Sheriff Martinez. You know he's tired of your nonsense." The 3 men grumbled and complained, but they knew better than to argue with Mrs. Rodriguez. She had been running this diner for 20 years and didn't take trouble from anyone. They threw some money on the counter and stomped out, making sure to glare at Jake on their way past. "Thank you," the woman said softly, looking at Jake with those unusual purple eyes. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Jake replied. "Those guys were being jerks. Are you okay?" She nodded, but Jake could see she was still shaken. "I'm fine. I'm not used to situations like that." "I'm Jake, by the way. Jake Thompson." "I'm Luna," she said, and something about the way she pronounced it made it sound like music. "Nice to meet you, Luna. Are you traveling through? It's getting pretty late to be driving these mountain roads." Luna looked out the window at the darkness. "I was supposed to meet someone, but they never showed up. I don't really have anywhere to go tonight." Jake felt a pang of sympathy. "The nearest hotel is about 50 miles back toward the interstate. That's a long drive in the dark, especially if you don't know these roads." "I'll figure something out," Luna said, but she didn't sound confident. Without really thinking about it, Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. "Look, I have a cabin about 20 minutes up the mountain. It has a guest room, and you're welcome to stay the night. I know we just met, but you seem like you could use help, and it's not safe to be driving around here after dark." Luna stared at him for a long moment, like she was reading something in his face. "You would do that? Let a complete stranger stay in your home?" "You don't seem dangerous," Jake said with a small smile. "And besides, anyone who has to deal with those 3 jerks deserves a break." "That's very kind of you," Luna said slowly. "But why would you help someone you don't know?" The question caught Jake off guard. Why was he offering? He usually avoided getting involved with people, especially strangers. But something about Luna made him want to help her. Maybe it was the way she seemed so lost, or maybe it was just that she was the most interesting person he'd met in years. "I guess because it's the right thing to do," he said finally. "Everyone needs help sometimes." Luna smiled then, and it was like watching the sun come up. "Thank you, Jake Thompson. I accept your offer." As they walked out to the parking lot together, Jake noticed how Luna moved. She seemed to glide rather than walk, and she kept looking up at the stars like she was reading a map in the sky. When she got into his truck, she ran her hands over the dashboard with curiosity, like she'd never seen anything like it before. "This is fascinating," she said, touching the radio dial. "How does it capture sounds from so far away?" Jake laughed. "You really aren't from around here, are you?" "No," Luna said quietly. "I'm very far from home." The drive up to Jake's cabin took them through winding mountain roads that twisted between tall pine trees. Luna sat quietly in the passenger seat, but Jake noticed she kept staring out the window with intense focus, like she was memorizing every detail of the landscape. "You okay over there?" Jake asked as they climbed higher into the mountains. "Everything is so different up here," Luna said softly. "The air feels thinner, the stars look brighter." Jake glanced at her. Most people complained about the bumpy road or the darkness, but Luna seemed fascinated by things others barely noticed. "Yeah, we're pretty high up. Takes some getting used to." When they reached his cabin, Jake felt a bit nervous. He hadn't had a guest in months, and he hoped the place was clean enough. The cabin was small but cozy, with a stone fireplace, wooden furniture, and big windows that looked out over the valley below. "This is beautiful," Luna said as they walked inside. She moved through the space slowly, touching the wooden walls, and examining everything with careful attention. "You built this yourself?" "Fixed it up over the past few years," Jake said, turning on the lights. "Found it half falling down and thought it had potential. The guest room is right through here." He showed her to a small bedroom with a comfortable bed and its own bathroom. "There are extra blankets in the closet if you get cold. Mountain nights can be pretty chilly." "Thank you," Luna said. "This is more kindness than I expected to find." Something about the way she said it made Jake pause. "What do you mean?" Luna looked out the bedroom window at the dark forest. "People aren't usually so helpful where I come from. Everyone keeps to themselves." "Sounds lonely," Jake said. "It is," Luna replied quietly. That first night, Jake thought he would sleep well, after his long day of photography. But around 3 in the morning, he woke up to see strange lights flickering outside his bedroom window. Soft blue and white lights were dancing between the trees like fireflies, but much brighter. Jake got up and looked outside, thinking maybe there were campers in the area with flashlights. But the lights moved in patterns that didn't make sense. They seemed to pulse and flow like they were alive. He grabbed his camera and tried to take pictures, but when he looked at the photos later, they just showed empty forest. The lights didn't appear in any of the shots. The next morning, Jake mentioned the lights to Luna over breakfast. She was sitting by the kitchen window, watching the sunrise with that same intense focus she'd shown in the truck. "Probably just your imagination," she said without looking at him. "People see strange things in the mountains sometimes." But Jake noticed she seemed nervous when he brought it up. She quickly changed the subject, asking about his photography work instead. Over. The next few days, Luna settled into life at the cabin, but her behavior got more and more unusual. Jake would wake up in the middle of the night and see her standing by the windows, staring up at the stars for hours without moving. When he asked if she couldn't sleep, she said she didn't need much rest. "How much sleep do you actually get?" Jake asked one morning, finding her already awake and dressed when he got up at 6. "A few hours here and there," Luna said. "I prefer watching the night sky. It's peaceful." Jake started paying closer attention to Luna's habits. She ate very little, just picking at the meals he prepared. She asked strange questions about everyday things, like how the coffee maker worked or why he kept food in the refrigerator. "Where exactly are you from?" Jake asked one evening as they sat by the fireplace. "Very far away," Luna said. "A place you wouldn't know. Try me. I've traveled quite a bit for photography work." Luna was quiet for a long time, staring into the fire. "It's hard to explain. My home is different from here." Jake sensed she didn't want to talk about it, so he didn't push. But his curiosity was growing stronger every day. The strangest thing was what happened to his equipment. His cameras started malfunctioning whenever Luna was around. Digital displays would flicker and show random numbers. His laptop would freeze, up for no reason. Even his simple radio would pick up weird static that sounded almost like voices speaking in a language he didn't recognize. "Is your electronics always so temperamental?" Luna asked one day when his camera stopped working completely. "Never. Had problems before," Jake said, frustrated. "It's like everything's going crazy since—" He stopped himself before finishing the sentence. "Since I arrived?" Luna asked quietly. Jake looked at her, not sure what to say. "I didn't mean anything by that," but Luna nodded like she understood something he didn't. "Sometimes my presence affects certain types of machinery. I apologize if I'm causing problems." "How could you affect electronics just by being near them?" Jake asked. Luna hesitated. "Some people have that effect. It's more common than you might think. It wasn't just the electronics, though." Jake started noticing other weird things around the cabin. The plants in his small garden seemed to be growing faster and looking healthier than they ever had before. Flowers that should have died with the first frost were still blooming bright and strong. His motion sensor cameras that he used for wildlife photography were picking up strange readings at night. The sensors would trigger, but when Jake checked the footage, he'd just see empty forest with odd energy patterns dancing across the screen. One afternoon, Jake was showing Luna his photography portfolio on his laptop before it started acting up again. She seemed fascinated by the images of mountains, forests, and wildlife. "You capture light very well," she said, studying a photo of a sunrise over the valley. "It's like you're preserving moments in time." "That's exactly what photography is," Jake said. "Freezing a split second so it lasts forever." "We don't have anything like this where I come from," Luna said. "The idea of saving images this way is incredible." Jake stared at her. You mean you don't have photography? Even the most remote places in the world have cameras now." Luna looked like she'd said something wrong. "I mean, we don't have equipment as advanced as yours. We're more traditional." But Jake was starting to think there was more to Luna's story than she was telling him. The way she talked about simple things like they were completely new to her. The way she seemed to study human behavior like she was learning it for the first time. The way she asked questions about emotions and relationships like she was trying to understand concepts that were foreign to her. "Luna," Jake said carefully, "are you in some kind of trouble? Are you running from something?" She looked at him with those amazing purple eyes, and for a moment Jake thought she might tell him the truth. But then she shook her head. "I'm not in danger, if that's what you're worried about. I'm just between places right now, trying to figure out where I belong." Jake wanted to believe her, but every day brought new mysteries. The electronic problems were getting worse. Last night he'd seen those strange lights again, and this time they seemed to be circling the cabin. When he tried to photograph them, his camera's battery died instantly, even though it had been fully charged. The most puzzling thing happened 3 days after Luna arrived. Jake was chopping wood outside the cabin when the axe slipped and cut a deep gash in his hand. Blood was flowing freely, and he was about to head inside to bandage it when Luna appeared beside him. "Let me help," she said, reaching for his injured hand. "It's okay. I'll just clean it up and—" Jake started to say, but then Luna touched the wound. A warm, tingling sensation spread through his hand, and Jake watched in amazement as the cut began to heal right before his eyes. The bleeding stopped, and the skin started to knit itself back together. Within seconds, there was nothing left but a faint line that looked like an old scar. Jake stared at his hand, then at Luna. "What just happened?" Luna stepped back quickly, looking panicked. You were hurt. I have some medical training." "Medical training doesn't make cuts heal like magic," Jake said, still staring at his hand. "It wasn't magic," Luna said, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. "Sometimes people heal faster than expected. You're probably healthier than you think." But Jake knew what he'd seen. That wasn't natural healing. That was something else entirely, something impossible. As he looked at Luna standing there in his yard, with her silver hair catching the afternoon sunlight and her purple eyes full of secrets, Jake realized that his quiet life in the mountains was about to become a lot more complicated. Whatever Luna was hiding, it was bigger than just being from a different country or having an unusual background. Jake was starting to suspect that Luna might not be entirely human at all. Jake couldn't stop thinking about what had happened with his hand. For 3 days, he kept looking at the spot where the deep cut had been, running his finger over the skin that showed no sign of ever being injured. He tried to convince himself that maybe he hadn't been hurt as badly as he thought. But he knew what he'd seen. Luna seemed to sense his confusion. She became more careful around him, always making sure to keep some distance between them. When he tried to bring up what happened, she would quickly change the subject or find an excuse to leave the room. On the 4th morning after the healing incident, Jake woke up to find Luna standing in his kitchen, staring at his coffee maker, like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. "How does it know when the water is hot enough?" she asked without looking at him. "There's a heating element inside," Jake explained, walking over to pour himself a cup. "It's pretty basic technology." "Basic," Luna repeated softly. "Yes, I suppose it would be considered basic here." "Here," Jake caught the word immediately. "As opposed to where?" Luna froze, realizing what she'd said. "I just meant compared to more advanced coffee machines in big cities." But Jake had heard enough strange comments from Luna to know she was hiding something big. He set down his coffee cup and turned to face her directly. "Luna, we need to talk, really talk. No more dancing around questions or changing the subject." She looked at him with those incredible purple eyes, and he could see conflict there, like she was fighting with herself about something important. "I don't know what you mean," she said quietly. "Yes, you do." Jake's voice was gentle but firm. "You heal cuts with a touch. Electronics go crazy when you're around. You ask questions about everyday things like you've never seen them before. You stand outside staring at the stars all night like you're homesick for a place that's not on this planet." Luna's face went pale. "That's ridiculous. Is it?" Jake stepped closer. "Yesterday, I watched you have a 10-minute conversation with my cat, and I swear she was responding like she understood every word. This morning, I found footprints in my garden that don't look human. They're too narrow, and the toes are too long. I can explain all of that," Luna said, but her voice was shaking. "Then explain it. Please. Because I'm starting to think you're not from anywhere on Earth." The words hung in the air between them. Luna stared at Jake for a long moment, and he could see her walls finally starting to crumble. She walked over to the kitchen window and looked out at the mountains. "What if I told you that you were right?" she said so quietly he almost didn't hear her. "What if I said I really am from somewhere else? Somewhere very far away?" Jake felt his heart start beating faster. Part of him had expected this, but hearing her actually say it was different. "I'd ask you to tell me the truth. All of it." Luna was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, she didn't turn around. "My name is Luna, but that's not what my people call me. I chose that name because it means moon in your language, and your moon reminds me of home. Your people? I'm not human, Jake. I'm from a world that orbits a star you can see from here on clear nights. We've been watching your planet for a very long time." Jake sat down hard in one of his kitchen chairs. Even though he'd suspected something like this, actually hearing it was overwhelming. "You're an alien," he said. "I prefer to think of myself as a visitor. My people sent me here to study your species, to learn about human behavior and culture." "Study us? Like we're lab animals?" Luna finally turned around, and Jake could see tears in her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to be like that. I was supposed to observe from a distance, learn what I could and report back. I wasn't supposed to interact with any humans directly. But you did. Those men at the diner were going to hurt me. I didn't know how to handle the situation. When you stepped in to help..." Luna wiped her eyes. No one had ever protected me before. It confused me. Jake stood up and walked over to her. "Confused you how?" "My people don't have emotions the way humans do. We understand them intellectually, but we don't feel them. At least we're not supposed to. But being around you, seeing your kindness, watching how you care about things, it's awakened something in me that I didn't know existed." "What kind of something?" Luna looked at him with an expression he'd never seen before. Vulnerable and scared, but also hopeful. "I think what you humans call love, or at least the beginning of it." Jake felt his breath catch. Over the past week, he'd grown more attached to Luna than he'd ever been to anyone. Her mystery had drawn him in, but it was her gentle nature and curious mind that had captured his heart. "Luna," he said softly. "I know it's impossible," she continued quickly. "I know I should leave. My people will be looking for me soon. I was only supposed to be gone for a few days. What happens when they find you? They'll take me home. And I'll never see you again. Jake reached out and took her hands. Her skin was warm and soft, but he could feel a slight electric tingle when they touched. What if you don't want to go? It doesn't matter what I want. I have responsibilities to my people. Luna hesitated. We're in trouble. Our species is dying out. That's why we've been studying other worlds, looking for solutions. What kind of trouble? Luna pulled her hands away and walked back to the window. We've lost the ability to form the deep connections that are necessary for our kind to reproduce. We've become too isolated, too focused on logic and duty. We're brilliant scientists and explorers, but we've forgotten how to feel. But you're feeling now. Yes, and it's wonderful and terrifying at the same time. Luna turned back to him. Being near you has changed something in me, Jake. I can feel my body responding in ways I've never experienced before. Jake noticed that Luna's skin seemed to be glowing more brightly than usual. The silver patterns that he'd thought were just unusual markings were starting to shimmer and move across her arms and face. What's happening to you? Luna looked down at her hands and saw the patterns, too. Oh no, this shouldn't be happening yet. What shouldn't be happening? My people have a biological cycle. It only occurs once every few years, and it's triggered by finding a compatible mate. I think being close to you, feeling these emotions, it's starting the process. Jake watched as the glowing patterns spread across Luna's skin. Instead of being frightening, it was actually beautiful, like watching aurora lights dance across her body. Is it dangerous? Not dangerous, but intense. When my people find their mate, we form a bond that goes deeper than anything humans experience. It's physical and mental and spiritual all at once. And you think I might be compatible with you? Luna nodded. The signs are all there. The way electronics malfunction around us when we're together. The way your injury healed when I touched you. The fact that you can see my true patterns now instead of just my human disguise. Jake looked at Luna. Really looked at her. She was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, but now he could see the alien nature that she'd been hiding. Her eyes were larger and more luminous. Her features were more delicate and angular. Her hair moved like it was underwater. You're incredible, he said honestly. You're not afraid? I should be, Jake admitted. This is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. But no, I'm not afraid. I'm fascinated. Luna smiled, and the glowing patterns on her skin pulsed brighter. My people won't understand. They'll see this as a failure of my mission. What do you see it as? The most important thing that's ever happened to me. Jake walked over to her and gently touched one of the glowing patterns on her arm. It felt warm and sent a pleasant tingling sensation up his hand. So, what do we do now? I don't know, Luna said. This has never happened before. My people have studied dozens of species, but none of us have ever formed this kind of connection with another race. Jake looked out the window at the mountains surrounding his cabin. His quiet, simple life had just become incredibly complicated, but he wouldn't change anything about it. Well, he said, I guess we figure it out together. Luna leaned against him, and Jake felt that same electric tingle spread through their whole bodies. Whatever was happening between them was just getting started, and he had a feeling their story was about to become even more extraordinary. The next morning, Jake woke up to the sound of wind howling outside his cabin. He looked out the window and saw dark clouds rolling in fast over the mountains. The weather forecast had mentioned a possible storm, but this looked much worse than expected. Luna was already awake, standing by the living room window with a worried expression. The glowing patterns on her skin were brighter than they had been the night before, and they seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. This storm is going to be bad, Jake said, joining her at the window. We might lose power. I can feel it coming, Luna said softly. The electrical activity in the atmosphere is affecting me. As if on cue, Jake's radio crackled to life with an emergency weather alert. The announcer's voice was filled with urgency as he warned about a major blizzard heading their way. Roads would be dangerous, and people in remote areas should prepare to be stuck at home for several days. Great, Jake muttered. Looks like we're going to be trapped up here together. Luna turned to look at him, and Jake could see something like panic in her purple eyes. That might not be safe? Why not? We have plenty of food and firewood. The cabin's solid. It's not the storm I'm worried about, Luna said. It's what's happening to me. Jake noticed that the temperature in the room seemed to be rising even though he hadn't started a fire yet. Luna's skin was giving off a gentle warmth that he could feel from several feet away. The biological cycle I told you about, Luna continued, being close to you in a confined space for days, it's going to accelerate the process. Is that dangerous? Not dangerous, but intense. I might not be able to control what happens. My body is already changing in ways I didn't expect. As she spoke, Jake watched the patterns on her skin shift and flow like liquid light. They were beautiful, but he could see they were also a sign of something powerful happening inside her. The storm hit with full force around noon. Snow began falling so hard that Jake could barely see the trees 20 feet from his cabin. The wind was so strong it made the whole building shake. Within an hour, they had lost power completely. Jake started a fire in the fireplace and lit some candles around the room. The flickering light made Luna's glowing patterns even more visible, turning her into something that looked like a living constellation. I should try to stay away from you, Luna said, sitting on the opposite side of the room from Jake. The closer we are, the stronger the effects become. But the cabin wasn't very big, and there was only so much distance they could put between themselves. As the hours passed, the strange energy between them seemed to grow stronger rather than weaker. Jake's electronics started going completely crazy. His phone wouldn't turn on at all. His battery-powered radio produced nothing but static, mixed with sounds that almost seemed like voices speaking in an unknown language. Even his simple wind-up clock stopped working. I'm sorry, Luna said, noticing the problems. I can't control it anymore. It's okay, Jake said, though he was starting to feel overwhelmed by everything that was happening. We don't need electronics to survive a few days. But it wasn't just the electronics. Jake began to notice changes in himself, too. His senses seemed sharper than usual. He could hear Luna's heartbeat from across the room. He could smell the storm, outside in incredible detail. The pine trees, the snow, even the metallic scent of lightning in the clouds. Jake, Luna said around evening, her voice tight with concern. Something's happening to you, too. I feel it, he admitted. Everything seems more intense, colors are brighter, sounds are clearer. The bonding process, Luna whispered. It's affecting both of us. As night fell, the storm grew even worse. Jake had never seen snow fall so hard or wind blow so fiercely. They were definitely not going anywhere for at least a few days. The cabin felt like a small island in the middle of a white, howling ocean. Luna tried to sleep on the couch while Jake stayed in his bedroom, but neither of them got much rest. Jake could feel her presence even through the walls, like a warm glow in his mind. Every time he started to drift off, he would sense her emotions. Confusion, excitement, fear, and something deeper that made his heart race. Around midnight, Jake heard Luna get up and move around the cabin. He found her standing by the big living room window, watching the storm with her hand pressed against the glass. The patterns on her skin were so bright now that they lit up the whole room. Can't sleep either? Jake asked. My people don't dream the way humans do, Luna said. But tonight I keep seeing images in my mind. Memories that aren't mine. What kind of memories? Yours, I think. Your childhood, your travels, the places you photographed. It's like I'm experiencing your life through your eyes. Jake felt a strange, tingling sensation in his head. That's impossible. Is it? Look at me. Really look at me. What do you see? Jake studied Luna's face in the flickering candlelight. Her features seemed more familiar somehow, like he'd known her for years instead of days. And there was something else. He could sense her thoughts and feelings like they were his own. I can feel what you're feeling, he said, amazed. And I can feel your emotions, too. Your curiosity, your kindness, your loneliness from all those years living alone up here. Jake walked closer to her, and the connection between them grew stronger. It was like having someone else's heart beating in sync with his own. Is this what you meant by bonding? He asked. It's the beginning. My people bond for life when they find their true mate. Mind, body, and spirit become connected in ways that go beyond physical. Jake could feel the truth of what she was saying. The connection between them was deeper than anything he'd ever experienced with another person. It was like Luna was becoming part of him, and he was becoming part of her. What happens next? I don't know, Luna admitted. This has never happened between our species before. We're in uncharted territory. As they stood there by the window, watching the storm rage outside, Jake noticed something moving in the distance. Lights were cutting through the blizzard, but not the random dancing lights he'd seen before. These were organized, purposeful. Luna, he said quietly. I think we have company. Luna looked where he was pointing, and her face went pale. No, they found me. Who found you? My people. They've come to take me home. Through the storm, Jake could make out several tall figures moving toward the cabin. They seemed to glide over the snow without leaving footprints, and they were surrounded by the same kind of glowing patterns that covered Luna's skin. What do we do? Jake asked. Luna turned to him with tears in her eyes. I don't know. They won't understand what's happening between us. They'll think I've failed in my mission. Have you? Luna looked at him for a long moment. No. I think I've discovered something my people have been looking for without knowing it. But they might not see it that way. The figures were getting closer to the cabin. Jake could see there were 5 of them, and they moved with a purpose that made his stomach tighten with worry. Whatever happened next would determine whether he and Luna had a future together, or if this amazing connection they'd found would be torn apart before it could fully develop. Whatever happens, Jake said, taking Luna's glowing hand in his, I want you to know that meeting you has been the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me. And you've shown me what it means to truly live, Luna replied, instead of just existing. Outside, the figures had reached the cabin door. Jake and Luna stood together, connected by something stronger than either of them fully understood, waiting to face whatever came next. The cabin door opened without anyone knocking. 5 tall figures stepped inside, bringing swirls of snow and a strange blue light with them. They were clearly the same species as Luna, but their glowing patterns were different, more controlled and geometric, less flowing and organic. The leader was a woman who stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin had a pale silver glow, and her eyes were the same purple as Luna's, but colder, more distant. She looked at Luna with what Jake could only describe as disappointment. Zara 7-7. 9, the leader said, using what must have been Luna's real name. You have violated your mission parameters. Commander Vera, Luna replied, and Jake could feel her fear through their growing mental connection. I can explain. Your explanation is not required. Your biosignatures indicate that you have initiated the convergence cycle with a primitive being. This is unacceptable. Jake stepped forward, feeling anger rise in his chest. Hey, who are you? Calling primitive? All 5 aliens turned to look at him, and Jake felt like he was being examined under a microscope. Their combined attention was overwhelming, but he forced himself to stand his ground. "The human speaks," said another alien, a male with sharp features. "Interesting. Most species cannot communicate during the early stages of convergence bonding." "That's because Jake isn't like most humans," Luna said, stepping closer to him. "The connection between us is stronger than anything in our records." Commander Vera's expression didn't change. "Irrelevant. You will return with us immediately. The bonding process will be reversed through medical intervention." "Reversed?" Jake felt panic shoot through him. "What does that mean?" "It means they want to erase what's happening between us," Luna said, her voice filled with pain. "They'll remove my memories of you and suppress the biological changes." "Can they do that?" "They think they can. But Jake, I don't want them to. What we have is real. It's beautiful. It's exactly what my people have been searching for." Commander Vera took a step closer. "Zara 779, you have been compromised by exposure to human emotions. Your judgment is impaired." "My judgment has never been clearer," Luna shot back, and Jake was surprised by the strength in her voice. "I came here to study human behavior, and I learned something incredible. Love isn't a weakness. It's a source of power. It's what my people have lost." "Explain," said the male alien, who seemed more curious than the commander. Luna looked at Jake, and he could feel her drawing strength from their connection. "Our species is dying because we've forgotten how to truly bond with each other. We've become so focused on logic and duty that we've lost the emotional connections that make life worth living." "Emotions are chaotic and inefficient," Commander Vera stated. "Are they?" Luna challenged. "Jake risked his safety to protect me from strangers. He opened his home to someone he'd just met. He's standing here now, facing beings far more powerful than him, because he cares about me. That's not chaos. That's courage born from love." Jake felt a warm glow spread through his chest. Through their mental link, he could sense that Luna was sharing his emotions with her people, letting them feel what he was feeling. The male alien tilted his head, studying Jake with new interest. "The human's biological readings are unusual. His neural patterns have adapted to match Zara's frequency. This should be impossible." "But it's happening," Luna said, "and it's not just one-sided. I can feel Jake's thoughts and emotions as clearly as my own. We're becoming something new together." Jake could sense the alien's confusion and curiosity through Luna. They were scientists at heart, and the unexpected data was making them reconsider their assumptions. "Even if this bonding is genuine," Commander Vera said, "it changes nothing. Our species cannot survive by mixing with humans. The biological differences are too great." "What if they're not?" Jake found himself saying. "What if the differences are exactly what both our species need?" All eyes turned to him again. Jake took a deep breath, drawing on the confidence he felt flowing from Luna through their connection. "Luna told me your people are dying out because you've lost the ability to form deep emotional bonds. Well, humans are experts at emotional connections. Maybe we could help each other." "The human suggests an alliance," the male alien said to Commander Vera. "It's worth considering." "It's worth more than considering," said a third alien who had been silent until now. "Look at Zara's biosignatures. Her cellular regeneration has increased by 40% since the bonding began. Her mental clarity and creativity scores are higher than we've ever recorded." Commander Vera studied Luna with new attention. "Is this accurate?" Luna nodded. "I feel more alive than I ever have before. Stronger, smarter, more creative. The love I feel for Jake isn't making me weaker. It's making me better." Jake could feel Luna's emotions clearly now. Her love, her hope, her determination to fight for what they had together. And through their connection, he could sense that the other aliens were beginning to feel it too. "Show them," Luna said to Jake. "Show them what human love really means." Jake wasn't sure what she wanted him to do, but he trusted her completely. He took her hands and opened his heart fully, letting all his feelings flow through their mental connection. His love for Luna, his amazement at her strength and beauty, his willingness to give up everything for her. The effect on the aliens was immediate and dramatic. Jake could see their cold, controlled expressions soften as they experienced human emotion for the first time in centuries. "Fascinating," the male alien whispered. "The intensity is beyond our calculations." "It's not just intensity," said the third alien. "It's the quality of connection. They're sharing not just thoughts and feelings, but their very essence." Commander Vera was quiet for a long moment, studying Jake and Luna with new understanding. "If this bonding is successful, it could indeed offer a solution to our species' decline. But the risks are enormous." "All the best things in life involve risk," Jake said. "That's something humans have always known. And something my people have forgotten," Luna added. "We've become so afraid of failure that we've stopped trying to truly live." The storm outside was beginning to calm, but Jake barely noticed. He was too focused on the intense discussion happening in his living room, a conversation that would determine the future of two entire species. "I propose a compromise," the male alien said. "Allow Zara and the human to complete their bonding process under scientific observation. If it proves beneficial to both parties, we can consider broader cooperation between our species." "And if it fails?" Commander Vera asked. "Then we learn from the failure and move forward with our original plans." Jake looked at Luna, and through their connection he could feel her hope and excitement. This was more than they had dared to hope for. "I accept those terms," Luna said firmly. "So do I," Jake added. Commander Vera considered for another long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. This experiment will proceed. But understand, you are pioneers venturing into completely unknown territory. We wouldn't have it any other way," Jake said, squeezing Luna's hand. Over the following months, Jake's cabin became a meeting place between two worlds. Luna's people established a small research station nearby, studying the bonding process and learning about human emotions and relationships. Jake and Luna's connection continued to grow stronger and more amazing. He gained enhanced healing abilities and increased mental capacity, while Luna developed a deeper understanding of creativity and intuition. Together, they were proving that love could indeed bridge the gap between species. More importantly, other members of Luna's species began forming emotional connections with each other for the first time in generations. The research station became filled with laughter, art, and music as Luna's people rediscovered the joy that comes from truly caring about one another. Jake often thought back to that night in the diner when three bullies had been bothering a strange, beautiful woman. He had no idea that stepping in to help her would lead to the greatest adventure of his life. As he sat on his cabin porch one evening, watching Luna teach a group of young aliens how to appreciate a sunset, Jake realized that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin with the simplest act of kindness. Luna looked over at him and smiled, her skin glowing with happiness and contentment. Through their mental connection, he felt her love flowing into him like warm sunlight. "Thank you," she said, even though she was 50 feet away. Their bond allowed them to communicate without words now. "For what?" He replied the same way. "For showing me that love isn't just about survival or duty. It's about choosing someone and deciding to build something beautiful together." Jake smiled back at her. "Thank you for showing me that the universe is full of wonders I never imagined." As the stars came out overhead, including the distant sun that Luna called home, Jake knew that their love story was just beginning. They had bridged the gap between two worlds, and in doing so, they had created something entirely new and beautiful. The alien beauty he had invited to his mountain cabin had indeed been in her mating season. But what had started as a biological cycle had become something much more profound, A love that transcended species, planets, and everything they thought they knew about what was possible. And in the end, that love had saved not just 2 hearts, but 2 entire civilizations.